Hey everyone, let's jump right in. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to unpack a seriously fascinating piece of ancient Chinese wisdom today. It's a famous text called Liao-Fan's Four Lessons, from way back in the Ming Dynasty. It's essentially a deeply personal manifesto by a guy who figured out how to literally rewrite his own future. I mean, if you're into self-mastery, habit tracking, or really just want to take back control of your life, you're going to find Liao-Fan's writings absolutely mind-blowing.
But first, let me ask you something. Do you ever feel like your life is just already perfectly scripted? Like you're completely powerless against fate and just acting out a pre-written story? Well, our main guide today, Yuan Liao-Fan, absolutely felt that way. He was basically stuck in this crazy 16th century Matrix scenario where he knew exactly what was going to happen to him, down to the literal smallest detail.
Which brings us to our first big question. Is fate predestined? Let's introduce a rather spooky fortune teller named Mr. Kong.
So, Mr. Kong doesn't just give vague horoscope-style predictions. He maps out Liao Fan's entire life. He tells him exactly what rank he'd get in his youth exams, 14th, 71st, and 9th. And guess what? Spot on. As Liao Fan grew up, Mr. Kong predicted the exact, down-to-the-penny amounts of his government salary. Again, 100% accurate. And then he drops this incredibly grim prophecy. He tells Liao Fan he's never going to have a son and that he'll die peacefully in his sleep on August 14th at the age of 53. For 20 long years, every single prediction, major or minor, came perfectly true. No wonder Liao Fan just completely gave up. I mean, wouldn't you? He accepted this totally unchangeable script, stopped trying, and basically just sat around waiting for the clock to run out.
But here is the major turning point. Part 2, Master Yanggu's Awakening. Liao Fan takes a trip to Qisha Mountain and meets this highly revered Zen master who just totally shatters his worldview. When Liao Fan tells the master that he's just passively waiting for his fate to play out, Master Yanggu literally laughs at him. He calls him an ordinary person and hits him with this massive paradigm shift. He says, "Destiny is created by me, fortune is sought by myself." This is such a liberating, radical idea, right? It means we aren't just passive passengers on a ride. We actually have the innate power to break out of our predicted paths, as long as we understand how the system actually works. And here's an analogy that brilliantly explains that system. Think of fate as just a basic math equation with a constant base. If you're an ordinary person, meaning you just kind of drift through life on autopilot, not doing anything super great or super terrible, you're completely bound by that baseline math. Mr. Kong's predictions, they work perfectly on you. But our daily thoughts and actions act as addition and subtraction. If you become an extremely good or an extremely evil person, your actions are so massive that they actually rewrite the math. You literally break the algorithm.
This realization brings us right to Lesson 1, Creating Destiny. Creating destiny is all about taking proactive control of your life's equation. It's a huge psychological shift from passive acceptance to intentional action. To really cement this shift, our protagonist actually changed his own name. He was born Shui Hai, but he changed it to Liao-Fan, which roughly translates to transcending the ordinary. He literally reinvented his identity to signal to himself and the world that he was ditching the predetermined script. And you know, that's incredibly relevant for us today. Redefining who you are is often the very first step to changing where you're going.
So how do we start changing the math? That's Lesson 2, Reforming Faults. Before you can add all the good stuff, you gotta stop the subtraction, right? The text outlines an actionable framework using 3 specific mindsets, or the 3 hearts, needed to fix your faults. Step 1 is shame. It's about honestly recognizing where you've fallen short of your potential. Step 2 is fear and reverence. That's understanding that your actions have real, unavoidable consequences. And step 3? That's courage. True courage means cutting out a bad habit instantly and decisively. The text uses this really visceral comparison. It says if your finger gets bitten by a venomous snake, you have to have the courage to chop off the finger right then and there before the poison spreads. No hesitation, just cut the bad habits out. Okay, once you've stopped the subtraction, it's time for the massive addition. Let's move on to Lesson 3, Accumulating Goodness. This is where you pile on those positive variables to completely overpower the baseline equation of your destiny. But, a quick warning, Not all good deeds are created equal. The text breaks down these really fascinating classifications of goodness. One of the most striking distinctions is between hidden and visible goodness. If you do a good deed and everyone praises you for it, that's visible goodness. You get your reward right away as a good reputation, and boom, the transaction is basically closed. But hidden goodness? That's doing the right thing in secret, without anyone ever knowing. And according to the text, that yields far greater natural long-term rewards, because it builds profound intrinsic value. Now, to make sure he was actually doing this consistently, Liao-Fan used something that modern productivity nerds are going to love: a habit tracker. Seriously, he created a merit and demerit ledger. Every single day, his wife would help him track his good deeds by drawing these little red circles on a calendar using a goose feather tube. Sometimes they'd rack up 10 red circles in a single day. He essentially gamified his karma. He set this massive, audacious goal to complete 3,000 good deeds just to see if it would change his luck. And you know what? After more than a decade of daily tracking, he actually hit it.
But he definitely didn't stop there. He leveled up. Later in his life, when he got appointed as a county magistrate, he made an unbelievable pledge. He aimed for 10,000 good deeds. Now, doing 10,000 individual good deeds could literally take a lifetime. His wife was actually pretty worried they'd never hit the quota while stuck inside the government compound.
But here's the secret: intent scales mathematically. As the magistrate, Liao-Fan saw that the local farmers were just suffering under these incredibly heavy taxes. So he issued one single decree, drastically lowering the tax rate for the whole county. That night, he had this dream where a heavenly figure appeared and told him that this one single action fulfilled his entire 10,000 deed quota in one fell swoop. Why? Because it was done with immense sincerity and it positively impacted tens of thousands of farmers. The big takeaway here is that the scale of your impact is driven entirely by the depth of your sincere intent to help others. So you've reformed your faults, you've accumulated all this massive goodness, and your life is transforming. How do you actually hold on to it? That brings us to lesson 4, the benefits of humility. Think of humility as the ultimate shield you need to protect the good fortune you just built. The core principle here is a universal law. Nature fills what is empty and diminishes what is full. Think about it. If a cup is already completely full, you can't pour any more water into it, right? Arrogance makes you full. It blinds you to your faults and invites ruin. But humility makes you empty and open. It means you naturally attract continuous growth, learning, and blessings. So look for your own faults first and accept criticism gracefully, because that is exactly how you stay in a state of constant improvement. So, what was the ultimate payoff of applying these 4 lessons? Well, Liao-Fan completely and utterly shattered Mr. Kong's cursed predictions. Remember his original fate? He was supposed to fail the highest exams, but he passed them brilliantly. He was predicted to be totally childless, yet he welcomed a healthy son named Tianqiu. And the most incredible part, he was supposed to die on August 14th at age 53, but when that year came around, he didn't even catch a cold. He lived peacefully, well past the age of 69, which gave him the time to write this fairy book and pass his life's cheat code down to his son. He literally wrote himself an entirely new life. To wrap this all up for you focused learners out there, here's how the pieces of the strategy fit together into a cohesive loop. First, you create destiny by taking proactive mental control. Second, you reform faults to stop the negative subtraction in your life's equation. Third, accumulate goodness to build up massive positive addition. And finally, use the benefits of humility as a protective shield for your progress. It's a complete, actionable system for self-mastery. We've just seen how a man from the 16th century realized that fate is absolutely not a prison. It's a mathematical formula waiting to be solved. Which leaves us with one final profound question to think about. If your life is a ledger of addition and subtraction, what equation are you writing today? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Start stacking up those red circles and I'll catch you next time.